Coming up, a special show you don't want to miss. Now hit my theme music. It's time to tap, because the Angle Podcast starts right now. All right, what's up, Angle fans? It's Joey Karni here. I'm here for a special episode. We have a special guest. He is former X Division champion, but he is still the one true ace. Ladies and gentlemen, Ace Austin. How you doing, man?
Great. I hate that word. Everybody's got to say former now. Tired of it.
Former for now until we get another title.
You're right.
How's everything going, man? How's everything with the quarantine life?
Not terrible. I mean,
I know you're itching to get back in the gym.
Of course. I wish I had a full home gym at my disposal, and I of course miss being in the ring. That's the only time that life feels right. But this was just the perfect excuse to kind of take a little bit of time to rest. You know.
Of course. How's it changing your perspective on the business? I know a lot of guys they're rethinking some things and just their overall everything, I guess. How is that really affecting your headspace?
I mean, not much really. Like my career's fine. I know that even after this, it'll continue to be fine. I don't think wrestling's going anywhere because of this. I mean, independent wrestling is struggling because independent wrestling thrives on crowds and live shows. But when you're doing television, it's a different story. So,
of course,
we're still producing a show, so I still get to be on TV every week, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I saw last night. Didn't really go in your favor last night, but you did still walk away a big star in everyone's eyes, I believe.
Yeah.
So I saw online, you're built from New Jersey. Is that where you're originally from?
I'm from Pennsylvania, but I spent a lot of my beginning years in Jersey.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm originally from Jersey, so that's why I was asking. I saw that. That's pretty cool. There's so much rich history.
That just kind of comes from my time with the Combat Zone. That's kind of when I started getting on people's map. So, Jersey's kind of the build place.
Yeah, I was watching old footage on your YouTube channel. Is that a lot of that footage? Is that from that time or in between?
Yeah. I don't think I have anything past 2017 or 18 on my YouTube channel right now, which I mean that's an issue. I would really like to update that, but I haven't had a lot of time. I have some time in my hands now, but getting a hold of footage is a lot harder than it seems sometimes.
Yeah, of course. Now, like I said, tri-state area is really rich wrestling history. Still being from Pennsylvania, you're kind of a part of that. What were your wrestling inspirations growing up, or really how'd you get into the business?
Well, there was never a time that I didn't want to be a wrestler. My life kind of began the moment I decided that wrestling is what I wanted to do, and that was when I was about 4 years old. So I really can't remember a time when wrestling wasn't like my focus, my absolute dream. Jeff Hardy was a big one. Obviously, you can kind of see that. Rob Van Dam, of course, Shawn Michaels. It's man, it's just I look at things so differently now, especially like your perspective totally changes when you're inside of the industry than outside. So it's always, it just kind of depends on. I want to be one of the most versatile, to ever do it. So you gotta keep your focus pretty broadened.
Yeah, I see that with the character. You're great on the mic, great in the ring. It's like overall, it's a great package. How did you create the Ace Austin character? How did that really
That
come to?
came about when I was, when I was super young, like elementary school. Um, I whenever I used to play the video games, for some reason I just always really liked putting the 4 ace cards, the tattoo on my character's shoulder. That was just something that I always did for some reason. It was just one of those things I consistently did every time I played the game. Um, and then the idea was literally built from that. I would put that on the shoulder all the time. And then when I was in elementary school, my best friend at the time, his name was Chad. Um, I got him into wrestling because wrestling wasn't super big where I grew up, like in my school or anything. It wasn't a super popular thing. So anybody that was not anybody, but most of the people that were wrestling fans were people that I got into wrestling. And so my buddy Chad and I, we decided we were going to be a tag team, and I came up with this idea where we were going to be the Ace of Spades. That was going to be our tag team name, and I was going to be Ace, and then and then it just kind of grew from there.
Oh, through it. Awesome.
Yeah. So and then once I started like training later, I started being able to really like put the concept, to bring the concept to life, really. So.
Well, you had the skateboarding and the parkour and the theater, all that stuff together. How did that correlate? I mean, obviously the three of those are kind of pro wrestling, but
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like I said, wrestling has literally always been, at the forefront of my mind. So anything I've ever done, I've done with wrestling in mind. I never, I could not bring myself to like dedicate too much time to something that I didn't think was going to benefit, the pursuit of my dream. I didn't believe in the Plan B idea because I feel like the Plan B is the idea of having a Plan B is like you're literally taking precious time away from what your focus should be.
Yeah.
To have that backup plan. For me personally, I've always felt more confident in myself if I didn't have a safety net.
Oh, 100%.
Because it's sink or swim. You don't have a choice but to succeed.
Exactly. Giving yourself that other option gives you, the leniency to, oh, okay, well, if this doesn't work, then, I have something else.
Yeah, you should just, just never quit on what you want. So,
of course.
Yeah, that's
Now, I was reading online, you were talking about the combat. And you were in House of Hardcore, is that true?
Yeah, I still do shows for them whenever I'm able to.
And getting in the ring with Tommy Dreamer, how was that? How was that really? Like, how was that?
Especially in Mexico, it's such a crazy weird environment, and we had ourselves a no DQ match, so that was fun.
That's awesome.
I haven't had many of those. I haven't had many, weapon related matches at all.
Not the one like Dreamer, and then you had Eddie Edwards.
Yeah, Eddie Edwards. Those matches were the first time I ever did like street fights or stuff like that. Like the only matches I had been in on the indies that involved weapons were like ladder matches. I had never done like street fights or hardcore matches or anything like that. So kind of breaking that seal on TV was pretty nuts.
Well, you've been in the business what 5-6 years now?
Only 5, yeah. Just hit 5 in April.
And 23, right?
Yep, just turned 23 in February.
Wow. And getting to Impact Wrestling, I mean, right now, I could say I was a fan of TNA back in the day, before they rebranded as Impact Wrestling, and it kind of fell off for a little while, at least in my eyes. I kind of stopped watching, and then over the last year or so, I got they started rebranding the company as Impact Wrestling. They brought stars in like such as yourself, and for me, it kind of brought that I don't know, it just brought that attention back where now I'm watching every week Impact Wrestling, for guys like you. So for you to be one of the fastest rising stars, how did you get to Impact Wrestling? How did that whole journey come about?
Yeah, no, you're definitely not wrong. Impact, people to this day still judge based off of the history, and the history is rich with good, but just like anything else, it's got its absolute fair share of bad, and the fact that it survived and is still thriving today, I think really speaks to the people to how much the people behind it really care.
Yeah.
Because it was a classic case of like mismanagement and just kind of like people fumbling the ball, and passing the company around, and just like no real solid foundation for a short period of time. And that could have totally turned the whole company upside down, and it could have gone away forever. But it didn't. People who actually cared, and people, like my bosses now, I think are incredible. And they they turn the thing around. It only dies when you stop trying. So yeah, we've done a whole lot of work to overhaul and to turn it back around. And I think people are finally starting to realize now that history is history, and we're doing something different now. Especially something different than everything else that's on TV right now. Like everybody's focused on the Wednesday night wars that are going on, but they don't realize that there's a some of them don't realize there's a perfectly very different and unique alternative happening. And for me, it was I say this all the time. I feel like it's one of the things I'm going to be quoted saying for the duration of my career. But I've made a lot of my career based off of being in the right place at the right time, and I feel like that's something I'm really good at, is putting myself in the right place at the right time. I've always been able to kind of sniff out where the opportunities are or where they will be, and I've been able to put myself in the middle of it, and make the most of the opportunities that come. So the impact, getting the impact, honestly, as cliche as it might sound, it was literally like a building of my whole career. Like from where I started, the people I met, the moves that I made, and the places that I went, all led to eventually, Impact Wrestling. I mean, it led to in 2018, it led to me sitting down with 3 options. Impact, WWE, MLW.
Gotcha.
And the fact that at 21 years old at that time, 2018,
to have those options. Crazy.
To have those options in front of you, because I had made such a good impression in all 3 places that if the world was at my fingertips. I could literally do, whatever I wanted, and then that was a very empowering feeling. And Impact, like how we were talking, it has such a rich history behind it.
Yep.
I really felt like it was the place for me to kind of begin this legacy.
No, it totally was. And if you see yourself now, I mean, it's one thing to see yourself from your own perspective, but to see from a fan's perspective over the last year, I mean, you're at the top of the company.
Yeah. It's funny when I turned 22, I was talking a lot about how 21 was like, when I was 21, it was a year-long hard grind where I was able to get opportunities with all 3 of those companies I talked about, and to have those options in front of me. And then when I made my decision at the end of 2018 to go with Impact, I turned 22 right at the beginning of my Impact career, and I decided that it was going to be less than a year where I would sit at the top, sit at the table. I wanted a seat at the table more than anything else, and I wasn't complacent with just like, oh, now I made it to getting a contract job. That's good enough. That's not good enough.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And I didn't just want the invitation to the dance. I wanted to really sit at that main table, and that's what I did. It only took me 8 months to get the X Division Championship, and then I ended up in the main event picture shortly thereafter, and I've remained in the main event picture since.
Of course, and all the storylines you had. I mean, the one with Eddie Edwards and Alicia, and all the way to Trey's mom. Like, how did that direction really? Was that more of you or more of the the creative? Because for this young kid to come in, literally steal the damn show, and then gain all this confidence, hold the title. I mean, it just molds so well.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you got to look at what's in front of you. You can't force stuff. You can't force anything. You got to look at what's in front of you, and you got to just follow. You got to play it where it lies. they looked at me for what I was and what I was capable of, especially beginning a career on television. And Impact has done an incredible job at building stars for the last couple of years. So,
Yeah, you know what it is? A lot of people think that WWE is that place where you go there, they build you to a star. It's not necessarily true. If you look at the past history, a lot of the guys that, at least right now, I would say, a lot of guys that are in WWE came from Impact. You know,
yeah,
they're not rebranded, they're not repackaged, or they're who they were.
It seems like Impact is where people go, before WWE or after.
Or,
you
yeah,
know, it's
yeah.
always.
Now I was in New York City because I'm in New Jersey, New York area, and I was at the Impact tapings in November when you guys were there in New York, and I went with my dad and a friend, and my dad's not really into wrestling. I took him just to take him, and I asked him after the show. He told me, he goes, "Dude, this was so much better than what I see in WWE." I'm like, "I know, I'm telling you." This, I mean, we were sitting in front row, we watched all the tapings, and I asked him, I said, "What's one thing that you remember most from the show?" And he goes, "That guy with the purple hair." But he was just such a fan. I thought that
That's
was
awesome.
pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah.
What so far has been your favorite like feud or story that you've been in?
Probably, I mean, the X Division title, man. It was the culmination of five. To some, it would seem like five, short years because it takes people much longer typically. But for me, it was five, you know, years of just nothing but the grind, just nose to the grindstone, and being able to call myself the second youngest X Division champion in the title's history
Yeah,
uh, meant a lot to me because one thing that you fall in love with pro wrestling. A huge part of it is falling in love with those moments and those memories that really like touch you, and to be to be able to like capture one of those moments and really be like in the center of it, especially you know when I can remember a time only 6 short years ago where I was just a fan.
of course.
You know,
Wow. Yeah, that's true. And back to what you were saying about, grinding to not just have a seat at the table, but you want to be, the top of the table. And, also back to what I was saying with bringing the interest back. The X division, I mean, it was memorable at first, and then it kind of dropped off a little bit. And then when you came into it, I mean, the X division is what people talk about, regarding Impact Wrestling. I mean, look at the match, for example, from last night on Impact. It's just incredible how you're really at the top of that X division, the division itself, and you kind of refaced, the whole thing.
yeah, and I'm very proud of that, and I hope that that's something that people will remember.
Of course, and now that you said the X division, it's something that you've been there, done it. You're moving on to new horizons. Where do you see Ace Austin going? You go into the main event scene with the world title. Someone asked on Twitter if you'd see yourself entering the tag team division. Like where's that future for Ace Austin?
Well, considering what I did with the X division, that was almost like a trial run. I don't see why there's no reason why I can't be the absolute face of this company, and why I can't change the whole damn thing and mold it in my image again.
No, I believe it, man. I said on my show, probably it was right around that time I was at the Impact tapings, and I said on my show, listen, I have to get somehow Ace Austin on this show because this guy is the future of the damn business. All the stars, everything is there, and he's so young. I mean, so you're thinking really world title.
Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I see it. It's only a matter of time.
It is. It is indeed.
Any thoughts or message to your fans that are going to be listening?
Hmm. Well,
After quarantine is over and You know, we get the fans back in attendance. I know you guys are still recording live shows, but
Yeah. Well, I mean, one thing you can always count on me for is a show. I'm always going to give you, I'm always going to give you a show. So stay tuned. That's what I like. That's one thing I like to say. Never draw your attention away because you never know what's going to happen next.
of course, man, he's always got one ace up his sleeve.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, man. I appreciate you taking the time to do this. It really means a lot. One of the best guys today in the business, I think. I said it months ago. Like I said, I need to get this guy on the show. He's just one of the best, and I really appreciate you taking the time, man.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
All right, have a good one.
Thanks, me too.